So here we are at the very tail end of another year, of the year 2017. And we're just kind of sitting on the precipice of a new year, which is always a fun part of our life journey, is a new beginning. And no doubt there are some of you who are reluctant to let this year go, like trying to just, oh, I just wish 2017 wouldn't end. It was a special year for you, perhaps. And I know that there are others of you who are just kind of pushing the needle, pushing the hands of the clock, like, come on, let's get this one done. And then I'm sure there's some of you that's like ambivalent, it's like, it's another year, whatever, another year, another day, what's the big fuss? But no matter how we approach it, the clock's gonna tick away and we're going to be finishing up this year. And I know for me, 2017 was a lot of change. It brought a lot of change to my life. Changing ministries obviously was a big part of it, moving and sending my daughter away. So 2017 was just a big, big year for me. So I'm looking forward to 2018. And you know, there's a lot of superstition about the end of the year and entering into a new year. We kind of agree as a collective that there are certain rituals that need to happen around the crossing of that threshold into a new year. You have to be at the right place, watching the right thing drop, and kissing the right person, and all of that kind of fun stuff, making the right kind of noise. It's just a lot of fun passing from one year to the next, and I love all that stuff. I like watching the ball drop and kissing at midnight and all that stuff, if I'm awake. But I also, you know what, live on the West Coast. When we lived on the West Coast, 9 o'clock was actually midnight on the East Coast, and my daughter was young enough, she didn't know the difference, and so 9 o'clock was midnight to us. It was sweet. It's a great way to do it. But anyway, I also like marking the year with some spiritual mindfulness, and I don't know if you read the Science of Mind magazine every day. If you're looking for a new practice in 2018, I'll invite you to do that one. That's a great one. There's a reading every morning with affirmations and stuff like that. Well, today, if you happen to have read it, this month the daily readings are by Reverend Catherine Lenover. She lives in the Denver area. I actually know Catherine. And she wrote these daily guides, and she talks about spiritual practice that she does on the last day of the year that I think is kind of cool. She reads over her journal from the prior year and kind of looks for themes and patterns of the year, and looks particularly at her role in how she co-created some of the things that happened in the year. I think that's a really cool thing. The other thing that she does is she decides what the story is going to be from the year and the events of the year. What is her story? Because she has the wisdom to understand that the events of the year actually don't last. What lasts is the story that you tell yourself about the year. So I think that's a really cool practice that I might just steal from Catherine. And actually might do that today as I go through this afternoon. But what I really want to focus on this morning is the next part, which is looking ahead at the new year itself. But before I do, I want to talk about something that has grown quite precious to me. One of the things that I absolutely hold precious at this time in my life, since moving to Florida, has been the navigation system on my car, my GPS. Okay, so since moving here, I always seem to be on the verge of being lost. I'm not quite lost, but I don't know exactly where the roads are going to be going, and they all seem to go over a very long bridge over water. And I don't know if it's ocean, or is it the Gulf, is it the bay, is it a river? And there's like 47 times I go over the Manatee River, so I'm not quite sure what that's about and how you're confusing me with all of that. But I don't even know what direction I'm going until sunset, and then I know that, okay, I'm sort of heading west or some relationship to west, but we've been here for 4 months, and I'm still just still just a bit lost. And even when I think I know where I'm going, I almost always set the GPS anyway, just in case, like I totally forgot that was part of it. And I've actually teased that I'm going to someday make my millions by inventing a GPS with attitude, okay? So I want the GPS system to actually go, really calculating. Like I wanted to have some reaction to the fact that I'm not following her directions. And Becky laughs at me because I'll put the GPS on and then I'll think, oh, no, I know how to get there. I'm not going to go the way the GPS tells me. I know a better way. Yeah, I want the GPS I invent to really have an attitude then. Like the third time you avoid the directions, like, really? Why did you even turn me on? That's what I wanted to say. But anyway, I love my GPS. And her name is Nancy. Her name is Nancy, as in know-it-all Nancy. Know-it-all Nancy. And I love that I can tell Nancy where I want to go. And she kind of quickly creates a route for me. And I don't have to figure it out. And most importantly, I don't have to be afraid to set out on a new destination because Nancy knows the way there even if I don't. So I'm having this really close relationship with Know-it-all Nancy these days. So I have worked with Nancy so much in my car. So Nancy, I told you, I didn't warn you. I was going to take her name in vain today. But what I've determined is some tips, okay? So I'm going to share with you some tips for using GPS. Now, the most important step, the most critical step I have learned is that I have to know where I want to go, okay? That's the most important thing. I have to pay attention to the details about where I want to go because you have to be specific. It's not beach front road, it's Beach Bay Road, it's First Avenue West or First Avenue East. You have to know the difference. You have to know where you want to go. Because if I want to get to where I want to go, I have to first know exactly where I want to go. And Nancy can find it if I can name it. If I can name the point, she can find it. Now, what I've learned is that spirituality works very similar to a GPS system. So my tips today are really not about your car GPS, although they work for that too. But really I want to talk about a spiritual GPS. So there's a universe of all possibilities out there. Think about that for a second. Think of all the places you could go. Infinite number of possibilities. But if we can name our desired destination or our desired possibility, Spirit can get us there. But the first step remains the same. We have to figure out where we want to go. If we're vague, we can get sort of close to where we want to go. But if we're specific, Spirit can help guide us to our destination, to our desired possibility. So our first tip is to know where you want to go. The second tip is to eliminate destinations that are actually in the opposite direction. Okay? Here's the deal. What we tend to do is give very confusing messages to our spiritual GPS system. For example, one day we invite in the possibility of, let's say, being married. And that's our destination. But then the very next day, we say something like, all the good ones are taken. Or, they're just useless. Love hurts, whatever. It's an actual destination in completely opposite directions. And so, another example is we might set out on a destination, which we're all going to do tomorrow, is we're going to be healthy, and we're going to get in shape, and we're going to do what we're supposed to do with our bodies, right? That's a destination that we're going to set. But then about, January 4th, we'll say, never mind, too old for this, I'm not going to go to the gym. Okay? So we're constantly setting opposite destinations. Not even like heading towards the bay. We're saying we're going to head towards Orlando. So it's like totally different. So our spiritual GPS system is kind of in a perpetual cycle of recalculating. It's that kind of lack of clarity. So eliminate destinations that are in opposite directions, and that will be helpful. The third tip, which I really do need to remember, is to listen to the prompts. Listen to the prompts. Just like Nancy, Spirit will give us prompts. When we have a destination that we're holding in consciousness, we will begin to receive ideas about heading in that direction. Perhaps we will get prompted an idea to call someone who happens to know something about that possibility that we're wanting in our lives. Or we'll pick up a book that is suddenly full of information. We didn't even expect this book to have information about the thing that we desired, and there it does. So we will be nudged. Our intuition will kind of move us into ever closer possibility of manifesting our desire. But what happens? Just like I do in the car, we kind of talk ourselves out of it. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't call that person. Who am I to call him? I'm just going to bug him. I don't even know how to do what this book is saying. I don't even know where to begin. So never mind, I'm not going to do it. Or we'll say, I know how to get there. I've done this before. I'll just do it my way. And so we will ignore the directions that Spirit gives us and we'll take a different turn. And we won't get to our destination. And speaking of the destination, the fourth important tip is recognize the destination. Sometimes we find ourselves in a new situation in our lives and we never look back and see how we co-created it, see how we participated in it. I was actually on the phone with a client this week who was talking about a new job that she's going to be starting in the new year. And I said, wait a minute, remember, we put this in treatment. We knew this was coming. We treated for this possibility. So it's helpful to kind of journal and keep track of the things that you're wanting to manifest, what you're praying for, what you're manifesting, and realize that I got to stop and recognize that I have it. So if you're treating for peace in your life and you never stop and recognize the moments of peace that you have, you're not realizing, hey, I made it. Because it's up to you to decide, have I reached my destination? Sometimes your GPS will get you kind of close, but you've got to decide, have I arrived? So we learn in spirituality that our words are very powerful. When we speak our word, that is when we are determining the destination that we wish to reach. As we speak our word, we're actually setting destination points in our spiritual GPS. So the more clear and precise we can be, the greater likelihood that we will actually live the life that we desire. And I think we're all here to improve our lives. We want this teaching to help us live better lives, and our words help us get there. So here we are today, sitting in the driver's seat of our lives, ready to make a decision about where do we want to go in the year ahead. Where do you want to go with your life in 2018? Perhaps you're like most people, you haven't really given it a lot of thought. Or perhaps you just vaguely know, I want to be happier and healthier. But how do we get better at setting our coordinates with Spirit? So let's talk about intention. Wayne Dyer wrote a transformational book called The Power of Intention. If you've never read it, there's my assignment for you in 2018. It's a very powerful book. And in this book, he quoted Carlos Castaneda. And what Carlos said is this: intent is a force that exists in the universe. When sorcerers, those who live of the source, when sorcerers beckon intent, it comes to them and sets up the path for attainment, which means that sorcerers always accomplish what they set out to do. So let me emphasize one little part. Intent sets up the path. Intent sets up the path. So here's the question. Are you a sorcerer in your life? Do you live of the one source? Do you set an intention and allow the universe to source your intention? I believe that setting up an intention is just like setting a destination in spiritual GPS. It's not a physical destination. It's a destination of feeling and quality of life. Wayne Dyer proclaims that activating intention is rejoining your source and attaining a level of awareness where previously inconceivable things are available. So when we are one with source, everything is available to us. The destination can be anything. So this morning we have an opportunity to create an intention for the year ahead of us, to set a coordinate in the universal field of energy, to speak our word on our behalf, to be the co-creator of our own life. Ernest Holmes says this in the book, The Hidden Meaning of the Bible. This is what Holmes says. Since God is pure intelligence and an endless being, it is always creating something. God is always creating something. The Word of God, spoken within itself, sets the law, which is also within itself, into motion. And the result is creation. The Word is the mold, which acting through the law produces form. And as there are many words, so there are many forms, each distinct and each individualized idea of God. It's a pretty complicated Holmes quote, but it's the essence of the idea that we co-create with our word. So we each know that we're individual ideas in the mind of God. We know that. And we produce the divine nature on the scale of the individual life. Since God's word and ideas are creative, our word and our ideas are creative. As above, so below. Michelle sang that this morning. Creation is one of our God-given abilities. So it's important that we understand this ability and harness it for the benefit of our own lives. Your word, your thought, your choices actually create the circumstances and situations you find yourself in. That's just a foundational concept in our teaching. But you might wonder, how do I harness this? How do I harness it in a practical way, in an intentional way? So this morning, we are going to harness the power of our word in an old traditional ceremony. This ceremony goes back to biblical times. And I may focus on the biblical text in another year of the White Stone ceremony, because we'll do this in our community. But this year I want to focus more on a historical context. So as I talk about the white stones and the history surrounding them, I want you to hold it in your hand. So take your white stone. Everybody has one. If not, raise your hand. We'll make sure you get one. They were laying on your seat. Does everybody have one? Thank you. Everybody got one. Just hold the stone in your hand and just consider the weight of it as I talk about it. So the white stone ceremony is derived from ancient teaching. A white stone was historically very symbolic, especially in Roman history. In ancient times, Roman citizens were each given a white stone to represent their citizenship. They didn't have little plastic cards back then, I guess. This was their citizenship. And as they moved about in their lives, this white stone meant that they had the full force and power of the Roman government behind them. They were Roman citizens. However, if they were ever sent to prison, this stone was taken from them, and it wasn't returned until their freedom was restored. So losing their white stone took away all of their power and freedom. It was a symbol of it. And I'm sure, if you can imagine, it was their most treasured possession. I'm sure that they kept it so close to them. So as you hold in your hand this very symbol, think about that. Let it empower you as you look at the year ahead of you. Okay, it doesn't symbolize the full force and power of Rome. Let it represent the full power and freedom of God that lives in you and as you. So let's take a moment and think about the year behind you. Do you notice any false ideas or fears that may have held you back or confined you in some way? Perhaps you had some doubt about your full citizenship in the kingdom of the oneness of God. Maybe you question whether the spiritual laws that seem to work for everyone else, would they work for you? Do the laws have anything to do with you? So just look at that stone in your hand. Let it remind you of your citizenship, of your power, of your freedom, of your creative ability, of your source. Because this white stone gives you permission to step out of any idea of prison that has held you back and into a new possibility. This stone reminds you of your ability to think a new thought. Wayne Dyer reminds us, we create our thoughts, and our thoughts create our intentions, and our intentions create our reality. I'm going to say that one again. We create our thoughts. We have the power to think whatever it is we wish to think. And our thoughts create our intentions. And we've already talked about the power of intention. Intention connects you to the one source. You're recognizing your oneness with the source when you set an intention. And your intention creates your reality. The intention sets the path. Okay, so this stone reminds you of your ability to think a new thought. So let's let a new thought grow in consciousness this morning. So you're going to use this white stone to set an intention for yourself for the year ahead. In a moment, you will discern a word to write on your stones. Everybody needs a pen. There's pens around. You will discern a word to write on your stone. It will be a word that describes a coordinate in the field of intention, in the field of possibility. It can be a noun, it can be a verb, it can be an adjective, any kind of word. It doesn't even have to be just one word, it can be a phrase. But I'm going to ask Lori to start the music and just let the music play until I tell you not to play it anymore. So I want the music to kind of set the tone. The music that you're going to hear is Luminaire by Ken Rottenstrass, who is the minister of music at Mile High Church in Denver, so one of our sister organizations. And he's very talented, and he creates a beautiful, beautiful undertone of music. So I'm going to start that. So just kind of settle and let this music fill. And hold your stone in your hand. And just feel the coolness of it, the texture of its surface, and the smoothness of it. And allow your mind to quiet as you take some deep, cleansing breaths. Just kind of turn within. You can close your eyes and just allow the chair to fully support you as you relax into this moment. As you feel the stone in your hand, know that this stone represents all the possibilities of your life. These possibilities just call to you and speak to you as you surrender in this moment to the unlimited nature and love of God itself. Spirit is love. Spirit is grace. And it enfolds you as you recognize that God is your true essence. I speak in the first person, but I invite my words to be the words of your own heart. I just let go and let God. I surrender to the knowing that I am free from any false limitations of the past. I release my fears that may have held me back. I allow only love and grace to guide my path because I am a glorious expression of God. I let go of any images of myself that limit me because I'm here to make a difference. I am here to express Spirit as me. I'm free of any negative thinking and I walk toward freedom in my life. I hold this white stone which reminds me that I am free to create and speak my word over my life experiences. I allow new possibilities and allow my highest self to emerge. I claim a new word for the year ahead, a word that inspires me and calls forth my highest and best. As I reflect in this moment, I listen, knowing that this word is already written on my heart. I trust and know that this word is for me, and I listen now in the silence and receive the word. Thank you, God. Gratitude flows through this room as we receive our words of inspiration and intent. We allow the music to just bathe us in thankfulness this morning as we birth a new way of thinking, a new way of being, a new way of making a difference in our earthly lives. We're grateful for the love and strength of God that flows through each one present, as each one present. Thank you, God. And as the music continues to play, as you are ready, I invite you to open your eyes and write your word upon your stone. Don't worry if you feel you don't have a word right now, for it will come. You will hear it in the right and perfect moment. So when you've written it, I invite you to just hold your stone close to your heart in silence. This act of intentionally claiming your word is so powerful. Just let it take on greater and greater meaning. As you move through the year ahead, it will grow. Because this word has come from the wisdom of your own heart, calling you forth into greater expression. And together we affirm that it is done. And so it is. So you have set a new destination for yourself. And it is described by this one powerful word. And you can keep the word to yourself in your own counsel, or you can share it with others as you choose. And I know lots of people do different things with these stones. I know some people carry it with them for the year. It's their word. Other people put it on their altar or put it on in a special place where you'll see it often and notice it throughout the year ahead. Touch it. Listen to your intuition. Ask Spirit to guide you. Ask your know-it-all Nancy Spirit, GPS, to lead you to opportunities to find an experience of this word. Just allow the twists and turns of your life to draw you closer to your experience. And also notice when you have the tendency to head in the opposite direction of the word. Because probably you have discerned a word that you resist. Probably. So if you find yourself heading in the opposite direction, stop, acknowledge that, and head back towards your destination. And notice with great gratitude when you have moments of this word. Like, yes. Because most of us don't live fully in a destination until we've had moment after moment after moment of it, and then it becomes part of our natural way of being. So recognize your destination and celebrate your arrival home every time that you reach it. Because Spirit is guiding you and expressing through you always. So I wish you the happiest of New Year's. And let me know when you have your stone destination. That would be lovely. And so